and pull up your presentation.
Well, my name's Hoot Morgan, and I'm the founder of the Forte Institute. I've been doing this for a couple of days. 1978, is kind of when it got started, and going to share some of the, here's what we are now, but I'm going to take you back along the entrepreneurial trail just briefly. I'm going to do my best to keep it in 6 minutes because Heather warned me. And, I take her warning seriously. Let's see. Yeah. There we go. So we're obviously in the people business, and we work with organizations in terms of starting with each individual team member, rolls up to the team, rolls up to the culture. The whole idea is Forte is a French word that means one strengths, and that's what we focus on. Who you are, how you're currently adapting, how you're being perceived. That's the point of miscommunication between how I'm feeling, how I'm being perceived. And we offer not only, I guess AI is kind of the cool term right now, but it's really predictive analytics. And then we also offer prescriptive analytics with page 9 of the report. In other words, here's what to do about it. And we can update as often as every 30 days or so. So it's communication intelligence. That's what we're talking about. And when we get into it, as we talk about Forte, again, first strengths-based profile back in 1978. First computerized, first online. We have served over 6,000 clients globally, and anything from a one-on-one to IBM. Just spans wherever there's people involved, we can be involved. The unique value of Forte is that it's not once and done. Life goes on. Everyone in this room understands life goes on. We've all been in those wonderful places, and then we probably pulled ourselves up a little bit from other places. So it all goes back to ancient China. So I'm not coming here with something brand new, a new way to look at it, a new way to do it. But back then, the emperors, if you were given one word, and if you answered it correctly, you got to be a bureaucrat. If you didn't, you're probably breaking rocks for the rest of your life. So we're not going to say it was as scientific as we would have liked. Then along comes Hippocrates, and this is 480 BC, and this is where many of the assessments today had their true beginnings, and that's with the 4 temperaments. And you can think of different surveys or assessments you've taken, and typically they're looking at 4 strengths. It all began there. And then along comes Sir Francis Galton in the 1880s, and this is really what captured me was the use of what's called lexical theory. Forte survey has 30 words on the who you are, 30 words on how you're currently adapting, and you rate those words on a 1 to 5 basis. And then using the AI, predictive analytics, we then produce the report for you. So it's done in 8 minutes. You can have your Forte in 8 minutes. Your adapting updates only take 4. So thank you, Sir Francis. We're going to get into kind of the steps to entrepreneurship. It all began back here when we're starting to trade spearheads. I guess back in the day, that was kind of a necessary thing to have. And then when we get into entrepreneurship, casual interest, opportunity knocking, whatever the steps may be, and has the entrepreneur worked for someone else before? That's a key element in beginning to understand really what maybe it's going to take to be successful. The trail starts with attitude, then aptitude, education, and then true grit, because in the beginnings it can be a bit challenging. So my story began with sweeping floors at the Acre shoe store in Carthage, Missouri when I was 12. My father thought I needed to occupy my time constructively, so I didn't have a dress, but I swept the floors every morning before school. And then my mother thought I also needed to stay busy. She was one of the first women graduates at the University of Missouri School of Journalism. So she knew I was kind of a people watcher, so we formalized it with Hoop Scoops. And I had reporters at all the schools around Carthage who would contribute. And then they got credits in here, Eugene Field, Mark Twain, Columbia School. And she would drive me around, and I would go in and pick up the stories, or she would edit them. And then we'd go down to the Carthage Press, and it was printed every week. That kept me busy. I'm sweeping floors. I'm helping my mom write my column. Then gets into radio. I got to be a night scene news guy at a one radio station in Carthage. I think it was maybe 250 watts. It may have got outside the city limits, but on a good day. Then would move into sports director. And then the TV station in Joplin made me an offer I couldn't refuse, so I got to be a news guy. You can see my people watching is expanding. Now I've got a 60-mile radius of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas that I can go dig up stories on. Would move into news director. Then all of a sudden, sales seemed to be a good idea. I just had a problem with the media chasing ambulances. I really thought there was more to life than that. And it's gotten even worse, but in today's world in particular. But long story short, sales, would get into general sales, ultimately assistant general manager of the station. But by this time, I'd had it. I really was not getting to get into the depth necessary to understand why advertising was working or not working. A client could have a phenomenal budget and it fell flat, but it fell flat typically because the people at the client location were not hired right. They weren't motivated, maybe not informed of, we're running this $50,000 promotion. And so the customer comes in and the expectation's not kept. So that was the beginning of Morgan and Associates. And then ultimately this would lead to Forte because I really wanted to learn more about the people aspect, period. So at this point, I'm a professional people watcher and I've got the t-shirt to prove it. So again, this is kind of, it evolves and every entrepreneur has got their story, but it's going to involve people. So nature versus nurture, this has been around a long time. We have siblings, we have friends, we have children born of the same parents, but they're very different. We get into nature and nurture, and we were not intended to all be alike. And Forte helped share that and the value of the diversity. So these are kind of the underlying opportunities. Most of the personality tests back then were not statistically validated. You could take one day, get a result, another next day, different result. That didn't seem like it was really a good thing to do because people would be hired based on something that was not valid. Very frustrating, very frustrating. It all started in 1947 when the government started paying for assessments for military and government personnel. The plethora of these things came out, typically someone's master's or doctoral thesis on a cohort of 20 students. Again, we're getting into a little bit of validity issue. So 81, as you'll see in just a second, was a game changer for us. And then of course the internet comes along. But this was the first tool we used. Many people in this room will not recognize this, but it was an IBM display writer. And this is one of the first word processors out. And for some reason I thought, well, I could just program this to do what I wanted it to do. Bad idea. So we're dealing with floppies. I see a lot of grins on faces right now because first of all, what the hell is that? And, finally, I invested in an IBM Series 1 because I recognized that display writer was not going to do it. So wrote the code initially in virtual COBOL. That process pulls in the amount of computerization needed to perform a particular routine. So it's very efficient. This is my first computer, my first laptop. It was a suitcase. Suitcase. You can see we've got some evolution going on here, right? So then along, this was, as I said, the game changer, the IBM PC. Look at this. I mean, look at all the computing power here, memory. 16K. And if you want to spend another $1,000, you could get 256K. I look back at this stuff, and that's why I have no hair. And so security back in the day was this thing called a dongle. And they got the software, they plug in the dongle, and half of them worked and half of them didn't. And we get the call and we'd clean up the problem. But this was as good as it got back then. So 1996, we go global. We were already servicing clients in Europe with the software and the dongle. Now we're in a huge processing center. This is software in Dallas, ultimately purchased by IBM. And it's where we were until last week. We're now up on the AWS platform and loving it. And they're going to let us do 50,000 emails a day. I don't know, that's our next, I can hardly wait to push that button. So now we've got the ability to service the globe. We do have an office in Dublin, one in Asia Pacific, and then another one in South Korea. 2 translations, Korean and Spanish. So goodbye dongle. That was a big day in the history of Forte. So here's what we do. It's a suite of products. We're going to offer those of you in the room, and many of you have already done your Fortes, but we'll offer each of you a complimentary Forte. Only takes 8 minutes. Jessica Wolf, who heads up our customer success, just give her your card. We don't care if it's on a piece of paper, whatever. My cards are over there. Pick it up, send us an email, and we'll send it to you. And it literally 8 minutes later, you've got your result. Okay. Adapting updates is offers every 30 days. Interaction reports between 2 people is where we begin a relationship of respect and rapport. Our job is relational harmony, bottom line, in the business environment. Team Pulse report, this has been very valuable to leaders during COVID. Now we can know how our people were doing, where they were, but they weren't here. They're in a workspace, not a workplace. The 360 for leadership development. We've got a program communicating to hire. You can design the communication style you feel would be best for a job. And then you can use that as a tool, not a decider, but one of the tools in hiring somebody. You got to be competent. No amount of coaching is going to overcome an inadequate skill set. And we get over here to performance coaching. You all can tell me, here are our top performers. We'll find out what they're doing differently. Use that information to coach them to adapt in ways of top performers in your organization, not some national thing. Here's a great sales profile. I guarantee you the top performing IBM sales guy is different than the folks over at Hendry. So, and it all, nothing disparaging, it's just a different approach. That's it. And then we also measure resiliency, which was of high value during COVID for the team leaders. So we stay in touch with the Forte validations. You'll do your Forte, then the next day you get an email from us saying, please rate the accuracy of your result. We've been doing this for 45 years. We constantly are getting feedback and constantly improving the tool. This is a statistician and saying that her mother validated it, which to us is the strongest validation you can get. We're able to take a look at what the ultimate goal is to help individuals stay in what we call the green zone. The key here is also this blue area, because with proper coaching and development, we can move many of these folks, which are just a step away, up to an area where they're motivated and they are productive. So at that point, we're achieving a success we're looking for. Here's our global validity. We run these every couple of years just to kind of see how things are going, but our monograph, the science, if any of you are suffering from insomnia, we'll send you the Forte monograph. It'll put you to sleep quickly, okay? But in the meantime, you know, you should be at least 80% happy with your result. Right now, the mean is 90. So we're going to typically undersell and over deliver. That's really what our job is. So that's it.